and I'm going to make an adjustment to the agenda. Item number 4, we're going to withdraw from the agenda. PCDC at this point is a few more things they have to work through before they're ready to discuss the south pad at the Wapaka site. So we're going to remove that from the agenda. But I'm going to add, if we approve this, an appropriation replacement for Tell City School for their fire alarm system. And I'll explain that as we get into it, why we're having to do that in 2022 versus 2021. So we'll just substitute item number 4, if that's okay. Anybody else have anything to add or subtract from the agenda? If so, we'll need a motion to approve the adjusted agenda.
Is anyone signed or wish to speak? If no one wishes to speak or no adjustments, I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved, no. Ayes have it. We have the January minutes, which Carol sent to all of us. Are there any additions or corrections to the January minutes?
Just a quick question on the minutes. They're not going to change anything because when the meetings on the 3rd page, it said about Greg reported the ARP committee has learned it's now possible to utilize the ARP funds to establish a revolving loan fund. Chris, can you up there, a revolving loan fund, exactly, I know the city has one, but would we have to create something like that for this, or how would that work?
If an RDC can have one, yes, it'd have to be created by resolution.
Okay.
And it's not uncommon for cities. Hamilton has one as well.
Okay, I knew the cities had one, but given this situation, I thought it is.
Do you want me to, when I speak? You can't hear me.
You have to ask them. I can hear you.
I mean, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the minutes any at all. I just curious about that when I read the minutes. Okay.
We don't currently have one, but I don't know of any law that says we can't have one either.
Okay. Just curious.
I just got to look. I've not been asking.
So if there's no other conversations on it, we got a motion to approve the January minutes.
I'll second.
We got a second from Carol. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved, no. We have updated TIF balances. So the courthouse TIF right now is sitting at $269,298.84. The Wapaka, which is TIF number 3, is at $227,208.20. The Web Wheel, which is TIF number 4, is at $328,326.33. Riverview, which is TIF number 5, is $3,434.60. Tell City 1 and Tell City 2, which is TIF 6 and 7, are still at zero balance because actually we do not have them set up at this point. Number 4, which was the replacement on the agenda. So I talked to the school superintendent yesterday, and every year we have been sending funds over to the school for improvements, safety, things like that from the Web Wheel TIF. Last year they were planning on updating the fire systems within the high school and the elementary school. Apparently that work did not get done, so he is in the process of rebidding that. The company that got the bid chose not to do it at this point, and he said they've chosen not to do it indefinitely because he canceled their contract because they didn't get it done. It's supposed to have been done actually December, before the end of December. It didn't happen, so he canceled the contract. So what he asked us if it would be okay if he used that project for monies as we secure those for 2022. I think mathematically, after we talk about the next item on the web bond payoff, there will still be funds available for that project for the school corporation. So I don't know if we really need to vote on that today or not. We can.
How much money are you looking at, John?
It looks like he's going to need, if he does both buildings, and he's got to get an update yet because he had to re-update all of his bids because they're all bids. Somewhere around $70,000 to do both of them. My math says we would still have enough funds in there to do that.
Okay.
We'll find out for sure after we get the bond deal.
So did they redirect the rest of
They never pulled
We
it.
never billed for it, therefore.
So they never pulled it,
So
so it's
that
still
money's
sitting in
still
our
there.
balance. It's still
Okay.
sitting in our
That was
balance.
my
Yeah,
question.
it's still sitting in our balance, yeah. And see, I was under the understanding that they had already done it, and that's where I've been talking to Pam to make sure that we had our math right.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to screw up item number 5 either, so.
So he wouldn't necessarily need new money, it'd be just.
Right,
money
it'd be
we
money that
already-
we would have had in '21, moved into '22.
Got it.
Okay, now, I don't know how soon they're needing this or what, but,
Won't be till probably summer.
okay, great, because because once, if you don't really officiate an amount tonight, it'll be at least April before we.
No, it'll be this summer, because what he's telling me is he's going to have the other companies that bid it, rebid it, because I'm assuming the pricing's going to be different, and he, as well as he was.
Okay.
So we'll know more probably at the next meeting.
Okay, I'll put a note.
But
in
I
my
just
additional
wanted
file, so
to
I'll
make
do this.
everybody aware of what's going on with last year's, because I was under the understanding it was already done, but it was not.
This way I can make a note so I don't forget it too, so we don't miss this additional.
That's
price.
correct, that's correct. So from an official vote standpoint, I think if everybody's in agreement, we'll just tackle it next month. Is that all right?
Be fine.
Okay.
We give them 120,000 a year.
Well, we give them what they need up to that,
Okay, what months that you distributed?
when they need it. Usually it's towards the
Yeah,
end of
it's
the
just
year.
whenever they do the bills as far as what they need.
They submit an invoice.
For
Yeah, they have to
120,000?
submit the
Okay, I
invoice.
thought it's always 120,000.
Well, it's plus or minus depending on what they need. It's been kind of on a need basis.
I don't think it's ever been over that. It's
No.
never been-
No,
So
right.
what I think what we've done is, since that started, is they had a project, they'd come and say, here's our project, here's what our project costs, then we either agree or disagree.
Generally, the invoice and the thing came from PCDC.
Right.
And
We
then we,
pay it, and then we have to turn it in.
Okay.
yep.
So item number 5, we discussed this at the last several meetings, was looking at our bond, our outstanding bond issue with the Webb Wheel Tiff District, which is number 3, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 4. Number 4. So we owe on the bonds roughly $249,000 left, since we just made a payment in February. We have sufficient funds within the balance to pay those bonds off, and if we so decide at tonight's meeting, it looks like the payoff time is going to be somewhere around April the 10th of this year. If we don't, it's going to just cost us more interest. Those bonds will actually be paid off in about 2 years. So the thought process was, hey, let's save us a little bit of money and get rid of the bond issue.
Well, that's what the TIF was designed for that.
Yeah. So we've got plenty of cash there to
And
do
we
it.
got cash in there, so, just a question, Chris. Is there any reason why we wouldn't do this? I'm coming from all angles here.
No,
Okay.
I mean, like John said,
Yeah,
we're paying interest on it.
We're gonna save the
if
interest
we
for a couple
wait,
years.
So we're
Okay.
saving
Yeah.
money,
Okay,
no reason.
need a formal motion? 'Cause I'll make a
I've
motion to
got-
pay it off.
I do have a resolution. We have to do a formal resolution, so
Okay.
I've got it. So here it is. I'll give you guys each a copy. There's the original. Bond counsel prepared this. So the process is like John said, if you guys approve this, the commissioners have to sign it. They don't have to have a meeting because you guys do the decision making, but they have to sign the notice. And that notice goes out to the bondholder. And under the rules, they've got till, we have till April 10th before we can officially pay the money and redeem it.
Okay.
They can't say no, it's just they have a certain period of time without the notice, so.
Yeah, they have to give notice to the bondholder.
Well, we can't pay off April 10th, but we can go ahead and make a motion to.
Yeah, that's what we
it.
do, because we have to give them 45 days
Yeah,
notice.
we have to do it, so we have the time frame. Once we do it, then they have to notify the bondholders. The bondholders could say, fine, just pay us now,
Yeah.
or there is a period that they can say, hey, just wait.
Okay.
And so you'll notice that the resolution is amount not to exceed $49,000.
Yes.
The actual amount will be determined by what day we actually pay them off.
Based upon interest.
Correct.
Okay, well, I got the,
So yes, we would need a motion for that.
yeah, I'll make a motion to pay it off.
We have a motion on the floor to pay it off. We got a second. Any discussions?
I'll second.
Okay. We got a first and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes carry it.
I have one more question on that discussion. What is the amount of assessed valuation tied up in the Webb Wheel? Is it 25 million?
I don't know. We can get that for you, I don't
I
know.
think it's somewhere in that area.
You want that?
It'd be nice,
Yeah,
just
that's
so
what I'm
everybody
saying.
knows what we paid, you know, what the bonds were representing in assessed valuation.
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions here too, just, Aaron, do you know, down the road, the web will, is there a talk of, you know, need to expand, like parking lot or driveway, things that we'll be responsible for?
Not that I have reason for.
Okay. I mean, the reason I ask you is that we're gonna pay the bond off, and maybe a good time, maybe we should even dissolve that TIF, you know, in that district, because it's not needed anymore. Then that money will revert right back into the county coffers, isn't that correct, Chris?
If
That they would pay
you have three options. Option one, that tip expires,
26, I think.
no, it's longer than that.
37. 37, I think it is.
34, 37.
Okay.
Because it was formed in like
27.
2004.
30 year, okay, 30
Anyway,
years.
34.
So option one is to let the money accrue. I'm not suggesting any of these are the good option, that these are your three options. Let the money accrue as it does every year and use it for future projects. Number two, you pass through like we do
Courthouse.
the courthouse. And the reason you do that is, rather than terminate it, is because in case you do need the money for something, you haven't eliminated the source of funds. And then three is, yes, to terminate. Now, terminate takes a vote of you and a vote of the commissioners to terminate the district.
Okay, may I just look at the
Now, I don't
options here?
know, since we don't know the assessed value that Tony asked, I can't
Okay.
tell you what that would do to tax rates. But that's the function of, the outcome of doing that, either passing through or eliminating the TIF area, would be to increase the assessed valuation for the county, which would, in theory,
Lower tax rate for
Lower tax
everybody
rates.
in the county.
by some amount. I don't
Yeah.
know the amount.
Okay.
That help?
Well, we're going to need to get some money to the high school here in a few months for that repairs anyway, so let's just leave that alone. That's my feeling on it for now.
And you will have the decision in June,
Okay,
is when you all make your decision to pass through or not.
right, okay.
Tony, the estimated assessed valuation for '22 was $9.5 million on the real personal property. And let's see if I've got it on the real
Yeah,
property.
we've got that. Baker Tilly prepares that annually for us.
Yeah.
I just don't have it with me.
I don't see it on the real property, though. Or personal, oh, that's the dollar amounts. So it could be something north, it's going to be north of that, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item, Ron, you can wake up now.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to keep an update on the downtown apartments, which was approved actually in 2020 originally, reaffirmed about a year ago. Got the contracts all signed. They got the property paid for in late November, early December. So now it's pretty much in the developer's hand, which is Ron Smith, to get the project up, going, and finished. How's that? So we asked Ron to come and just give us an update of where we stand today.
Well, right now, Universal Design's finishing up the plans. I met with sewer people and water people here in town today to give them the final, show them on the hookups, which way we're going to feed the buildings. Our biggest problem was our illustrious bank. The loan officer was handling ours, decided to leave the bank, and it sat on his desk for 4 weeks. Well, we assumed that it was at the appraiser's office all that time, and I called one of your people from Tell City who happens to be a German American, and all of a sudden, inside of about 20 minutes, the phone started ringing, and I get an email from him just about every day now. So I think the process has got speeded up a whole lot better. So, but the guy that was handling our project left the bank and didn't pass it on to somebody else. I know that sounds like a real great excuse, but in this market, that's kind of what happened. But other than that, everything else is going well. We've got all our estimates in. We're ready to go. We're just waiting on. And the only thing would ask for, and I think I talked to you a little bit, I need a letter from you guys just say the property's paid for. We can't say it's in our name because we're still, and I have started the process on the abatement with the town, and the town, I've started that process. But I have to have a letter showing for the bank that the property's paid for, but we can't be in our LLC until we get the abatement filed and approved with the city.
So Chris will work on that.
Yeah, who's the letter made to?
The German American Bank.
So plans we should have,
You should have them before the next meeting.
okay,
I'll email you what we got right away.
okay.
Nothing else really changed too much on it. We changed the pitch on the roof just a little bit, but other than that,
And your estimated start date now is?
would be as soon as once the bank approves it, we'll go ahead and start doing some of the stuff right away, putting silk fences up, and I do have to, which I didn't really realize, we have to move a sewer line down there. I mean, I'd heard bits and pieces about it before. When I met with sewer today, we have to move a sewer line, which is not a major deal, but we have to move a sewer line down there. And then they talk about different ways to hook the water in. They want, and that has to be done with the town and everybody. They want to put another line down 7th Street to tie the two sides together, but that's got to be approved by the water and sewer people. And we didn't really talk much about that, but I found that out today.
So I'm assuming we're hopeful to be seeing some things turning in
Well,
April?
I'd be ventured to say we actually talked about going ahead and put the silt fence up right away. So I was going to have Calvin go ahead and find the pins and set them back, because that stone wall that's there, like we said, is actually on the other property over there. So
Okay.
we've got to clean that.
Any questions? Anybody?
Smith Homes LLC.
No, it's HBS.
Any questions, Joe?
Yes. It just has to, basically, I wanted to make sure it covered you and us both, because.
Well, if he's writing it, it'll cover us.
Right. Well, I knew it was gonna cover the plan. I worried about gonna cover me too.
And maybe I missed it, did you say, has the bank given you a time frame on when you're going to be locked
I'm
in?
just waiting on appraisal company.
Have they given you a time frame on that?
They said it could be, the appraisal company's had it for 2 weeks. It could take them a month, it could take them 3 months, it could take them 3 weeks.
Right.
Well, I would tell them they don't have 3 months.
That's, but they're the ones, they still held our letter of commitment on money, which is, so far, and with rates going up, it's been pretty good, they're still holding it, so, and I think part of that is the fact that they know that they had made a mistake, so. They said that they would settle the problem for 4 weeks, so.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have an estimated time, once you start, how long it's going to take?
If everything's available, it'll take less than a year.
Okay.
Just if we can get everything.
Anything else?
I'm good.
David? David's awful quiet today. We have item number 7, which is kind of
Our air handlers
a,
aren't running.
what's that?
Our air handlers aren't running. We have no heat.
Well, hopefully we won't heat the meeting up, so. Item number 7 is approval to pay our first invoice from Engineer Associates, which is Kenny Simpson. He's the one that we contracted with to work on the site plan for the subdivision. And I'm submitting that for $4,723 at this point. That covers the topographical survey and part of the engineering services at this point.
So this comes out of the topographical
Yes.
survey, 5,000?
Yep.
Okay, make
Yep.
sure I'm taking it out of the right
Yep.
one.
So we approved that back.
So I think you got a copy of that, right?
That was
Tim?
approved
Back in
several months ago.
November.
No, that one is mine. Oh, you gave me mine back?
This was a copy that I had.
I did.
Oh, I did have mine back.
So that, and actually, that's got a big chunk of it. There's going to be a little more now because we're working now on the site plan in terms of grading, what we're going to need to do, not need to do. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to meet with Brett Luttring to look at it and see what he thinks we should do or shouldn't do. We're going to try to move as least amount as we possibly can and still make it nice. And then the next step on that was going to be figuring out the cost. You know, what's the road's gonna cost us, what the curb's gonna cost us, that part of it. I've done some estimates, but I'm gonna wait until they get real estimates, real people that do that stuff. So that's kind of where we are with it. So by next month, we're gonna know those numbers. We're trying to move it through as quickly as we can. The last item is, and I've got copies.
Do we get approval for that?
Oh, we need approval. So we need the motion, I guess, to approve that. Sorry.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
We'll get the
So-
check out tomorrow.
Okay. He'd probably appreciate it more than I will, but I do have copies of what we've prepared to this point, and hopefully there's plenty of copies here, so if you guys, Chris, is going to grab those and pass them out. So this is what we've been working on the last 30 to 60 days. And I will tell you, there's a little bit of a story behind some of the names. As you're getting those, that's the topographical one. That's the topographical one, which you don't want. And this is not totally chiseled in stone, but I really like the name, so I don't know, we'll see where it goes. So at this point, we're calling this Forest Canton Heights. The story behind Forest Canton, that's actually the area in Switzerland that William Tell is from. So we thought the idea was to kind of have a nice name, but something that kind of related to the area in which the community is. The street name of Walter Tell, does anybody know who Walter Tell is? He's the dude that had the apple shot off his head. I figure there's got to be something into that, right? Dr. James was actually a physician in Tell City, Perry County that opened the first hospital in the county. And he agreed with the county to close his hospital when the county opened their hospital. And the day that, believe it or not, the day that the county opened their hospital, he closed his hospital. It's the old hospital that's down by City Hall. That was the first hospital in town. Yeah.
Yep.
The Goddard Pass, actually, that's the pass in Switzerland. I thought it was a pass road, so what the heck, we'll just name it that. So at this point, that's the names we're sticking with unless we have to change them. When Kenny put it all together, it looks like we've got 27 lots, the possibility of another 2 more lots, which we have marked as park at this point in time. Those are actually buildable. We thought at this point we were going to leave those open just in case we needed some space to store some things until we get the whole thing put together. The hospital is still on board. We're going to kind of work out some final numbers with them. We've got some other costs that we know that we have to incur in terms of getting all this done. So at this point, that's the layout. So this is kind of the public look at the layout of what we envision as the Forest Canton Heights subdivision.
Would the hospital entertain working with a private developer at this point,
In terms of,
taking over this project and going with it?
I don't think the hospital really cares. They just
Okay.
want, but they probably would. Do you know of one that wants to do it?
Well, I don't know. The reason I ask is, we just look here, and I'm for development stuff, but I'm having a hard time getting past using tax dollars to develop a private residential housing
So
area.
let me ask you this, are you okay with tax dollars to develop a business,
Business?
a factory?
Well, no, we use it.
That's exactly right. So why wouldn't we try to help our people at the same time?
This is more residential than it is a business.
No, it's community. It's all community. So we have to have people to have business.
I'm looking here, and I see Case Bolts, and I see Randy Cole, and I see Dixon's, and I look at the other realtors and stuff for developers, and, they don't get any tax dollars to help them develop their
No,
business.
but
We want to be careful with it.
We do.
Be careful.
We do want to be careful, but here's the deal on this thing. So if Scott, Case Bolts say, hey, I want to build a house there, they have zero risk. We've already done the infrastructure. Whatever the profit they make on the house, they make on the house. We take none of that.
That's true, but on land they're developing on their own out by Hoosier Heights or up near, like rural land up near the river and stuff, I mean, they've had to take the risk 100% themselves.
Absolutely. So what we're trying to do is help them not take no risk and build more houses.
I just want to proceed.
That's the process behind this.
I just want to proceed with caution.
So, you're looking at, on these lot sizes, about 1,500 to 1,600 square foot single level, or you can do double levels. You can do two-story, but that's about what the lot size is. They are much smaller than what the case boats have been developing in the past, quite a bit smaller.
Not as much.
Lot size are, the lot sizes are, yeah,
I'm sure heights will be similar, which
Yeah.
we'll have 86 lots to
Yeah.
offer.
yeah.
In between, actually, we'll have close to 100 between the Highlands and this, right in between those.
So the idea really was to try to take some of the burden of cost off in terms of development. That was the whole idea behind all this. Now, if the community says, no, we're not going to do it, well, that's fine, but we've got the plans. Nobody on this committee basically has any skin in the game, quite honestly. We got nothing. You do. We don't. We have nothing in the game. All we're trying to do is figure out how we can get more people to move here to fill the jobs that they're busing people in for and provide a nice quality home. That's all we're trying to do. And that's all we try to do from day one.
Didn't the mayor, Kelly, weren't you on that committee about identifying lots around Tell City that could be built on? And like somebody out in the county, does anybody have like a number or?
I don't know where they're at with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, like Courtney, you guys got like 13 out there at the Highlands yet?
We do.
And you have like 86? And I know like Lepping's up there in Broken Hill got about 6 or 8.
I think 8 to count.
And didn't Blair Walsh buy a planter on Boundary Way, going to develop a few
5
things?
building sites there.
Beg pardon?
I think he has 5 building sites.
Okay. But I talked to some people out by Magnet, and there's some, lots about Hermie H and rural land, the resale. So I mean, there is some lots available. I mean, I know we need more to bring people in, but
What we really need is buildings. We can identify lots. So this is the idea behind this is to attract builders to start building and minimize their risk. That's the idea.
To stimulate that
That's a-
business
absolutely.
development.
that's exactly what you're doing,
Absolutely.
Courtney.
And get more tax dollars.
As much as possible, as in agents refer local, or like any other agency, or real estate agent can refer, that keeps it local. If they can't find a house for someone, then work to like pay a referral fee for things like that.
I just want to make sure we keep it on a level playing field.
And that's what
We
we're
have done
trying to
that, and we've talked about this for a year, and we've invited every builder to every single meeting we've had. It's been open to the public, transparent, and this board has continually voted to move forward with this.
We have, yeah.
We have given away millions to corporations who are desperately starving for people. And the whole idea is like, if case boats want to come and build a house, if somebody doesn't want a lot on their place, they've got a very affordable lot on this place, and they don't have the risk involved in it. And that's why we've done this, and we've done it with a lot of support of the community. And I can't believe after a year of discussion, we finally have a drawing in front of us, and I'm scared to take the next step. This is a very low risk for this community to bring people in. When every major business, every small business in this community needs hundreds of people to come here and work. And we just pulled off item 4 for another pad at Wapaka, and we don't have the people to fill them new jobs. I don't understand, be careful. We have been careful. We have looked at this. We've talked about the risk, but we've also talked about the benefits. And I'm a little taken back that this comes up after over a year of discussion. I'm sorry, I don't understand what spurred that, because it wasn't ever brought up before. And now we have a set of drawings, and all of a sudden we've created some type of an issue. I'm sorry, I'm just asking for an explanation.
I just talk about.
Hey, where have you been on this whole conversation?
So what, I just been listening and we're talking and learning about stuff, but I'm not saying I'm against it. I just want to say I'll make sure that the taxpayers gets a fair shake.
I'm sorry, I'm as conservative as can be, and we've given millions to corporations that we all dearly support. Isn't it time we give a little bit to the residents of this community?
Sure. And that includes people out in
Thank
the
you.
county.
So one of I talked to Brian Herwig, hospital actually owns this property, which actually technically I did at the county. But one of the things he's requesting, and I totally agree with, as this is happening, the requirement is going to be local builders. Not 100%, we're working on what that needs to look like. But Brian's comment was, we're trying to do the best we can to support the local builders because that's who pays for everything within the community anyway. So we're going to have to get local builders to do this in terms of local subcontractors. If it's not the builder, we'll have to subcontract. What do we got to do? But that's one of the requirements that the hospital's looking at. Well, they're insisting upon. So that will be not an option. That'll be actually going to have to happen. So as we move, if we decide we're going to move this thing forward now, the next step I think we're on is number one, we're going to have to sit down, and I think next month, we're going to need help from people who do the building to figure out what the parameters need to look like on the homes.
I was going to ask you, you're thinking about some restrictions.
Yeah, we're going to, because you don't want just anything there. So we need to discuss, come up with a plan of restrictions. One thought that came up at a meeting a while back, do we actually have several plans available to pick from? I don't know the answer to that, but it came up. I don't know if it's the worst idea, but it came up. But next month's meeting, that's going to be the big chunk of the meeting, is really start to pan out what the restrictions would be. Restrictions, I don't know if is the right word, but the restrictions would be the covenants, all that kind of thing on this property. And hopefully by then, we'll also have some numbers.
Yeah, we have to have covenants on there.
Yeah, we have no choice. We'll have to have some numbers based upon what it looks like it's going to take to put the streets in. All the utilities are there. They sit right in front of the place. Every one of them sits right there. So that should not be an issue. So one of the things we talked about at the last meeting was trying to get some folks on our committee to start looking at some of this, or signing tasks, if you will. And I sent out a list to our group. So anybody, some of the things we talked about was the lot design, which we pretty much have, specifics on the utilities. We have, we need to get some estimates in terms of moving dirt and that sort of thing. We need to identify all of our spending resources. Where can we get funds? We're going to have contact with the building. I think we have to go to Tell City's planning and zoning because we're in the Tell City jurisdiction, even though we're not in the city. And then we're going to have to meet with the county based upon what Bursty Road's going to look like. Because that's going to have to be repaired and wide if we decide to move forward. That's the road, yeah, it's actually still a county road.
Yeah, because there's a section of
Yep.
it that's very thin.
It's very thin.
Well, it hasn't been touched since '37.
Right, so that's kind of the list, so if any of you all want to pick any of that stuff, I would greatly appreciate it. This has all been volunteer for me.
You're meeting with Brett in the morning?
Meeting with Brett in the morning.
What time?
7:30, out there.
All right, I'll be there.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Randy, you're on the ARP committee, and John, you submitted a request for us here?
Well, we submitted a letter, and I'm trying to figure out the form.
Okay, okay.
I'm going to have to talk to Randy about
I just
figuring out the
wonder,
form.
when does ARP anticipate making decisions on,
I think it's the 8th of April.
okay, on who they're going to give money to?
We're not, no one has the privilege of knowing who applied, and we won't know that till it's closed.
Which is the 24th.
So we don't, get a prejudice
I don't
started.
really think that this fits in with the current application.
It does not fit into the current application, that's my question.
Depends how you tweak it.
No, it doesn't fit in with the current application.
You've been trying to tweak it up.
Yeah, so anyway, we may address that to see how we can apply for some of those funding for this also. So if you guys don't want to speak now, you can send a note and we can start assigning some of these tasks to some of our committee members. The more the merrier. If you want my opinion. Huh?
Are you looking for those?
Some of those, yeah. We'll probably come up with more as we go on.
Not getting many takers.
Huh?
They said you're not getting many
I'll have to
takers.
look at the zoning part of it, so I'll do
Yeah.
that.
I mean, does anybody have any other thoughts, comments, questions? You know, this is still an open discussion. We're just proceeding until either it gets done or somebody says stop. That's kind of where it's going to be.
What benefits are there to the builders that you're talking about?
Profit on the house, profit on the house.
Everything is basically paid, you pay at the end. You're saying once
Yep.
we sell a house,
Yeah, so if you either have
We don't pay
a,
for a lot until it's sold.
right,
we don't pay for a lot even until it's.
no, until it's sold, and then when it's sold, and that's the number that we're trying to tweak, and the lots are going to be they're going to be inexpensive. But we don't have an exact number yet. We threw out a number last time. It's going to be maybe just a slight north of that, but not a whole lot.
One of the things we talked about also was a certain percentage of these lots being given away to people who move in from out of town. And
So it just helps reduce
Enticing.
some cost. So, yeah, so the incentive really is, again, let us take all the risk as a commission, if you will, or a county, and then the developers. So if you can make $50,000 on a house, you make $50,000 on the house. We're okay with that, personally. So, if you want to, if the thought process is, hey, we're going to build a few spec homes, okay. Or if you have real people that say, hey, I want to build a house, here's the parameters that we have to build within once we figure out what the covenants is. You build the house, you sell the house, you make the money.
Courtney, you got covenants on all your stuff.
You have to.
Where'd you get those? You guys just decide this has to be so many square feet? Has to
Our
be-
covenants?
Yeah.
Well, the Highlands was already somewhat established. We
Okay.
did revise some of it with Walter Hagedorn, but it'll be
Yeah.
kind of the same covenants for the new subdivision as well,
Okay.
so.
They're based on what you want to put in there. Modulars, if you want modulars, you exclude them. You just have to come up with your own covenants restrictions, base whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, then most of those are going to be on an exterior basis. So,
On the minimum size of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
exteriors.
And with the lot size, you've kind of got a maximum size just because of the size of the lots. They're going to restrict that just because.
You specify whether outbuildings are allowed, what they have to look
That's-
like.
that's
There's just
correct.
lots of stuff like
So
that.
there's a lot of details to go through yet, which is where we need public help. I mean, we need your all's help to do this. And none of us on here, the closest builder we have, I guess, would be Tony. None of us are builders. We just started floating the idea behind the thought process is we needed houses. We need places for people to live. Yes, Randy?
Here's a bomb that I threw out 15 years ago. We go through the process with the TIFs. We're trying to entice people to move into our community, build a facility. We put the infrastructure in, okay? After that TIF is paid for, then the people who live here actually benefit from the increased tax revenue, and our rates go down. It's a simple process if we follow it and not find new uses for all the money. The same thing can happen on housing. And you can use this as a tool for the private individual and also your government operation. If you build a $200,000 home, and I mean it appraises for $200,000, you need to get the county, the city, the library, the school in agreement to say those dollars will be carried forward as a benefit to either the homeowner or the developer to subsidize them and lower the cost of that house. And then you can apply that whether it's private or public. It's a house that's not built here, so we don't have the revenue. So the people who do live here will subsidize their use of government facilities until a 10-year period or whatever you establish is passed, and then the people living here will benefit from the new revenue. And use that tool, because I know what you're doing, and I don't mind putting government money into what you're doing, but I want you to be able to do 27 more lots.
Right.
Because you have the funding, because after you sold these, and they're throwing revenue tax dollars back in, you'll generate money so you can go to the next partial and do it.
But we're not tiffing this, Randy.
I know you're not
Yeah,
tipping.
we're not
I don't
tipping
wanna
this.
tip it.
No.
I want an agreement from the taxing entities that they'll participate in something like this, so that it's perpetual. So it's not a one and done. We're gonna provide you the funds, you're gonna have cheap lots, you're gonna sell lots, and then it's over. until government comes up with money again. But if you take what you're doing out there for round 2, and the revenue's being generated because they built $200,000 homes on 27 lots, now you've got an excess of $5 million of taxation.
And I agree with that. The challenge is going to be, as you know, how politics run. We can't control all of that. This board cannot control really any of
It
that.
has to be participation in all the tax.
That's correct.
Say they're going to throw the money back to the Redevelopment Commission of the tax dollars for a period of time.
No, they're not.
No, I'm saying they would have to agree to it in order to continue to replenish your funds for step 2, step 3, and also subsidize private builders that wanted to participate in development of ground. It's super expensive.
So some of the concepts around it that we floated out there too, especially with this ARP money sitting out there, okay, is to help. And the one comment that was made to the cities, especially the City of Tell Cities ARP fund, was to take some of those dollars to help with tap-in costs. So instead of, I don't know what's the cost, Courtney, to tap in now, $3,000 to $5,000 per house, roughly?
Yes, for sewer one.
Why can't we help reduce their cost, which is bottom line cost, which ultimately is profit, if you want to use the terminology, and use some of those dollars to help subsidize that? And all that's going to do is going to start the wheel rolling in terms of a positive tax roll, okay? So we're sitting in a pretty good situation with that side of it, which is also the bigger picture behind this, although that we have no control over, that we can at least have those conversations.
Whenever the ARP money is gone, it's gone though.
You're correct. So we have a short window on
So
that.
we need to figure out a way to continue this so that we can do it
And I think,
next year and the next year.
I think in a
Well,
theoretical world, you're correct. The practicality of it, I wish it would happen that way, but I don't know if it'll happen that way, and nor do we have any control over that. All we have is control over is what we have control over right now. And I agree with you. The conversation I think Chris and I had is, can we retain some of these dollars into a pool of money to help keep doing this? And the response is we don't know yet because of how this commission is set up. So we may not even be able to retain any of the money. We have to spend it all.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't, I
Yeah.
just
We
don't know.
we don't know.
But as
We don't
long as,
know.
as long as the county's on board, the county was considering a redevelopment fund where they could lend money back out. So that would be accumulating funds and repurposing those funds. Okay, if the county can do that, the county can hold the money with the understanding that it's for the redevelopment to repurpose it.
Under the current administrations.
Exactly. I
So,
mean, we're one vote
so,
away from the
so,
change.
so what you have is, you're correct, in theory, you're absolutely right. And in reality, I wish it would work that way, okay? But again, we can only control what we can control.
I don't know.
I mean, would
So-
that like a revolving loan fund?
That's a similar type
Could be
thing, but
very,
as
very
long as you
similar
hold
thing.
the funds, the county can hold them and say their purpose for this purpose. I mean, you can come in then and decide next year with a new group of people to say, we don't want to support that anymore.
They could do, in January 1, they could throw this whole thing out.
Sure.
It's a new board.
So,
That's the risk that we take, okay? So we have an option. We can sit here and do nothing and just keep talking about stuff and do absolutely nothing, or we can take action. And this board has chosen to take action, and that's what we're going to do. And as long as we have public support, and as long as we have support of this board, we're going to keep moving this forward. In reality, I wish we could continually do that and turn around and help them and say, hey, look, we got money for you. Let's do this stuff, okay? If we could do that, I'd be all for that. And trust me, I am not a government kind of guy. I would prefer the private sector do everything. But we understand that at certain points in time, we may have to nudge this thing a little bit, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're just trying to nudge.
main thing is stay focused on where you want to get.
Exactly, and that's where, having Ron come in with the apartments, we've had numerous other inquiries now about housing. I don't know if the bubble busted and people are seeing it, but I'm getting calls all the time. A lot of them we can't do anything with, quite frankly. But at least we have a stimulation now of looking, we got to grow this community. Fortunately, in the last census, we've seen some growth. But if we don't grow the community one way or another, it's over, folks. And I've said this before, it's over. We can't support our hospital, we can't support our school, we can't support our local government, because we can't keep doing it on thin dimes. You know that as well as anybody sitting in the position you're in. So this is what we're going to try to do, and I agree with you. If we could do that, I would do that in a heartbeat. I can't control that, Randy.
So it's time to approach government.
Well, we did have that program when we did the tear down of the homes in Tell City.
They left that
Quasi
one.
type thing, that's a grant again.
But it would have kept working, but we stopped and we built the depot.
Right. Government made a decision, as John said, not to support it anymore. And that's where you're at.
So, you know, I still believe, and I still believe the number is accurate, you know, if the city of Tell City does not get to 10,000 residents, we become irrelevant. If the county does not get to 25,000 residents, and I'm not talking about the prison, I'm talking about real residents that pay taxes, we become irrelevant. You know, will it affect most of us in this room? Some of us are younger. Probably not. But will it affect the next generation? Yes, it will. And I commend the Case Bolts. I mean, for the first time in how many years, we actually are getting new houses built. You know, how long has it been since, you guys been doing it now, 4 or 5 years out there now?
4 or 5 years out there.
Out there.
It was Hollidan before you guys.
Yeah, so the last one, really, the last larger one before that was Jim Hollidan. And when Jim Hollidan built that section, what is it, 20th Street? What was happening, what the city would do then is they would actually put the streets in. And they didn't have the tap-in fees, if I recall, from listening to Jim's stories. The city decided to change their ways and said, look, you've got to do it all. And you know what happened? Wasn't another subdivision built. They just quit. It was over. So this is our attempt to restart. And what I'm hoping is we get builders, because what the other thing it did when we stopped building is we lost all of our builders, right? Because you have no place to build. Or you didn't want to take any of that risk. I mean, the same thing happened in the village in Santa Claus. If you remember 35 years ago, they would give you lots in Santa Claus Village because nobody wanted to build a house out there. Nobody wanted to build a house. Part of that was economics, part of that was interest rates, but nobody wanted to build a house. Now there's some interest. And this is all across the country. We are short of houses across the country. This is our attempt, our small attempt to stimulate this thing. And if we don't do it, I'm fine with that. You know, if somebody comes in and says, look, John, stop this, we're going to go out and build 50 houses or 100 houses, it's less work that I got to do, Randy. I get paid nothing, okay?
Yeah, I'm not against you, John.
I get paid nothing for this, and nor will I ever get paid anything. So it's not about that.
I want to see you continue. I don't want it to be a one.
I want somebody to continue. And I just hope, I really, really hope that we can get these costs down for the private sector to continue this thing. That's what I hope.
Is the city of Tell City on board with doing something about what you're talking about now? Because
The answer to your question, I think
people
so.
that own lots in town.
I think so.
It's getting there.
That's on some-
Baby steps.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there with Chris.
Yeah.
So Chris and I have had numerous conversations, some of them relatively harsh conversations. So I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. I think the concept is starting to sink in pretty well. And the city is listening. Now, is the city council on board? I can't answer that question. Unfortunately, I'm not in the world of politics. I try to stay as far away from it as I can, quite frankly. So I think so. We were better today than we were a year ago. That answers your question, Scott.
Yeah, I think it's time. I totally agree.
We've identified numerous lots in town. That would be real simple. Get a little pushback on that yet. I'm getting a little pushback. Getting quite a bit of pushback,
I hate
actually.
to compare it to used cars, but that's what we're selling right now every day.
Well, you know, how many more coats of paint can you do on a flip house? I'm sorry. The houses are getting smaller because all we do is paint them and flip them.
Yeah.
And you all would probably agree, if you're wanting to build, if you have a new family you want to build, you don't want to live in a 1940s house that you're fixing all the time. You want something that's new, relatively new, but you also don't always want something that you have to build yourself either. You would love to just to move into something that somebody's else made decisions on. Fair? So that's what's kind of in behind all this. And if this never comes to play and it stimulates houses to be built, we've done our job. we've done our job. But as far as this commission goes, as far as I'm concerned, we're going to try to keep stepping this thing forward, and maybe somebody can take this and do it on their own. I'm good with that. If somebody can make money at this, that's the American way, as far as I'm concerned. That's what everybody in this room is trying to do, right? And sometimes some things get in our way, and sometimes hopefully we can get stuff out of our way. So that's what I'm working with the city at this point, is to get obstacles out of the way. And get them to understand that, yeah, they see a few dollars up front, but it's big dollars in the backside if they just let it
You
happen.
can't pay even half the city streets that curb and gutter in though and afford to build 2 homes.
No.
I mean, you can, but it cuts into your bottom line, the profit part of it is nothing.
You hardly, well, you're pricing yourself out of the market in today's market. Really. I mean, you start to, right? You start figuring, if you have to have, $40,000, $50,000 a lot, and you break that down to people, they turn their nose up and say, it ain't worth that. Well, it is worth that. They want to live there, but they don't want to do that.
Well, it takes 10 years to sell the lots. And you can't
That's,
sit on them.
that had been the last problem.
Waterings went through and they're not hills.
You can't sit on them.
Beautiful lots, but they're,
They have some nice lots, and it's just.
How long they been sitting on them?
They throw the money in there themselves too, and see, that's unfortunate, but the city back then didn't work with somebody at that point and say, we'll do what you're talking about now. It's too little too late for them, but what you're doing now is gonna be good for whether it's out in the county or hopefully goes to the city.
Right. And the one thing that we've kind of missed, and I actually learned of this not too long ago, and I didn't realize it actually occurred, so if it's not 100% accurate, I apologize. When Arnold Moser and Jim Hollidan built Berglund Hills, if you were an employee of Moser Crush Stone and you built a house there, Arnold basically guaranteed that you would not default on your house. Did you know that? If you were an employee, he basically, so what he was doing is saying, look, people, build houses out here. Now, did it help him? Absolutely, because he was developing the lots, but it also helped his employees.
General Electric did other things similar too.
Right.
It's a different.
We don't see that anymore. We don't see that anymore. So, in partially because we really don't have any home-owned large corporations here any longer. They don't exist, unfortunately.
$4,000 to attract people here.
What's that?
Or they're putting the money up front to attract people here.
Yeah, now most companies are saying, what are you going to give me before I show up? Versus saying, hey, we want to invest in your community. And when Boeing built their big, when the 747 came out, they built a huge building to build those in. They didn't ask the state of Oregon to build it for them. They built it themselves. Okay? Times have changed. Unfortunately, times have changed. And all we're trying to do, again, is we want to stimulate. We've got to stimulate this thing because we don't want to become irrelevant, because otherwise none of our businesses are any good, quite frankly. So that's what this is all about. There's going to be some controversy around it, and I apologize for that, but all we know is what we can do, and this is what we have to deal with. So that's my thoughts. I'll quit preaching, sorry. Any other comments, folks?
Well stated.
Any
Let's
other
make it
comments? Next month, we'll send a notice out, and if we miss a builder or something that wants to come, we just want to make sure they're communicated with, but we'll send an email out so where everybody knows what's going on and when, and the majority of the meeting is going to be about that. We may have one other thing or two that shows up, but it'll be short and sweet. We'll get through. So if you have thoughts and comments, you can always send them to Chris or myself or anybody on our board, and we'd be happy to either discuss, go through, tear around, whatever we have to do, because we want to get it right. We want to do this right.
Yeah, send them to me, I'll send them to John and on.
So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Next meeting.
March.
I got through.
Hold March, just hold March.
So if we go out a month, what would that be? That would be about, I don't know, Tony?
23rd
Should
of
be the
March.
same date because February, March are the same.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do it
Didn't
around
know
the
that.
month, it'll be March 23rd.
Well, let's tentatively set March 23rd at 4 o'clock.
That's the AIC. 22nd is the AIC.
March 23rd at 4:00.
Because the ARP stuff's got to be in on the 24th, just so if anybody wants to know that.
On the 24th, you said?
Huh?
Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
24th.
24th, that's a
Okay.
Thursday. So 23rd of March.
I'll scan a copy.
Again, bring thoughts, comments, ideas, please. You know, if you think we're totally going the wrong way, we welcome that conversation also.
Paul's made the motion to
Huh?
adjourn. Paul made the motion to adjourn.
We have a motion down here, folks, to adjourn. We got a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
If y'all sign please sign this ordinance that was approved, a resolution. You get to sign? Yeah, good, good.